You're working just the way you always have, maybe even better. You're more experienced, handling tasks with ease. Then it starts. Your opinion's no longer relevant. You're always overqualified. Suddenly, you're unemployable. This isn't part of aging, it's ageism. Everyone deserves to age without limits. Let's make it a reality. Ageism. Notice it, challenge it, change it. Search Age Without Limits.
On this week's episode of the podcast, I'm talking with Tricia Cusden, who launched her own makeup range at the age of 65. We discuss how women in their 60s often have that existential crisis, asking themselves, what am I for? Why am I here? What's my purpose in life? Something that she herself experienced. It was at that point that she went on to create her very own successful makeup range, Look Fabulous Forever. And she says that she's never looked back. We also explored her feelings about aging and how it's important to stay curious about things in life. Can I ask you to subscribe to the Retirement Rebel Life After 60 podcast and follow it and rate it and share it with friends? Because it all has an impact on the success and it helps me to build my rebellious tribe. Welcome to Retirement Rebel Life After 60. I'm your host, Siobhan Daniels. Join me on a journey to meet inspiring rebels who've redefined retirement. Together, we'll explore new passions, triumphs over challenges, and discover the vibrant possibilities of life after 60. This is about living boldly, not just aging. So, are you ready to rebel? Last week, I spoke to Danielle Selwood, a pioneering documentary maker who's doing her bit to highlight women's stories about sport and adventure. Her film Younger is a must-see. If you haven't already, please give it a listen. My guest on the podcast is Tricia Cusden. She's the founder of the Look Fabulous Forever makeup and skincare range, particularly for older women. And I'm absolutely thrilled because I'm all about empowering the older women and living our best life. So I'm thrilled that you've agreed to come on the podcast and chat to me.
It's a pleasure, Siobhan. Lovely to be with you today.
Now, why on earth did you decide that you wanted to launch a skincare range?
Well, it wasn't actually a skincare range that I decided to launch, but a makeup range. And there is a very important distinction in those two. I was 65 when I had the idea. I knew nothing about the beauty industry. Very important for me to tell you that. And I'd had a pretty ropey year in terms of something had happened in my family. I had a granddaughter who was born when I turned 64, and she had a lot of issues. She has a rare chromosomal abnormality. She was in hospital for a long time. She has mental and physical issues, challenges. She's now 12, so there is a nice outcome to the story. But I was needed during that year, so I gave up all my work commitments. I'd been working as a management trainer and a executive coach, that kind of thing. Loved it, loved that job. But I was kind of winding down. I was quite happy doing what I was doing, which was less work. And then India was born, and I just was needed, very hands-on, just needed as a granny, as a mother, as a support system to the family, basically. And I did all that. That was fine. And then India came out of hospital, things settled down, people seemed to resume their lives. My daughter sort of went back to work part-time. She got help with India, and I just thought, okay, so wow, I could live for another 30 years. What am I going to do? And I literally couldn't think of how I was going to fill my time. And I describe it as a sort of an existential crisis, because I think you do have these crises of existence. It's like, what am I for? Why am I here? What am I doing? What do I want to do?
And it often hits women in their 60s, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does men too when they retire, but there's a sort of a way in which men's lives and the way they structure their lives around career and all that sort of thing, they're almost anticipating that moment very thoroughly. And I don't think women do so much, because there's a sort of a continuation, really, a kind of an ebb and flow to a woman's life. We're domestic some of the time we're working. I mean, I didn't really start working properly till I was 38. And up until that time, I'd been doing a degree as a mature student. I'd had kids. I looked after them, So I think we have a rhythm to our lives. It's very different from a male rhythm. So I started thinking about what I loved and what I didn't like. And I thought, well, I do love makeup. I do love the effect of makeup, especially now I'm older. And the reason I say that is because an older face loses definition, colour, and it loses that. It's called the luminance of contrast, which is when a younger face, you look at a younger face, you can really see the eyes, you can see the cheeks, you can see the lips, you can see the eyebrows. They've often got definite hair colour. And as you get older, all of that disappears. And it disappears because it's a natural process. And yet, if you put a bit of makeup on, even a small bit of makeup, it all comes back. You can put your eyebrows back, you can put your eyes back and your cheeks and your lips. I loved it. I loved makeup because of that. I've always loved applying it, and I just enjoyed it. So I thought I loved that. And I also love business. So the idea of taking a sort of concept, a thought, and turning it into money. That sounds terribly, like grasping or something. But I do like seeing if I can make money out of something. It's an entrepreneurial gene I have. I've done it all through my life. It's like, could I make that work? Anyway, so I just thought, could I build a business around this? And I thought I could train as a makeup artist and offer courses to women on how to put makeup on an older face. So that was my first thought. And my second thought was, if I was going to really make money out of it, I'd have product to sell. So that seemed another logical next step. And it was linked to something I didn't like about the beauty industry, and that was the way that they could only flog me anti-aging cream.
Oh, gosh, that is one of my big bugbears. I hate this anti-aging. Let's tap into everybody's insecurities.
Totally. And the thing is about the anti-aging label that they stick onto face creams, they're basically saying, don't get old. Anti-aging, don't get old.
Whether we like it or not, we're all heading there.
Like we have a choice,
I know.
Today, I'm going to get up and decide not to get old. That ain't going to happen. So there's that. And there's also the implication there's something wrong with a face that isn't striving to be as young as possible, i.e. there's something wrong with wrinkles, there's something wrong with laughter line and these marionette lines that we get and all that sort of stuff.
We've earned these.
Totally agree. Anyway, I was exercised by that. So I put all of that together, found a cosmetic manufacturer. He started making me some amazing product, all of which was sort of to my specification. I need this makeup to do this. I need the foundation to cover, unify my skin tone.
Were you struggling to find makeup for the older face?
Yes.
And was that one of your motivating factors?
Yeah, it was. I got very disillusioned. I went to Selfridges Beauty Hall, and it's quite challenging going to a beauty hall when you're older because they're not interested in you. They're always really young, the people selling it. Anyway, I went to I think it was the Chanel counter. I mean, I was going to spend money on this thing. I was actually going to buy the best I could. And the young girl there showed me this. It was called something Lumiere, I think. And Lumiere, of course, means light. And you think, oh, yes, I want my face to look lit from within.
Yeah.
It sounds so romantic and beautiful. So I bought this stuff. She got the right colour for me, took it home, put it on, and I just thought, well, that doesn't work. That doesn't look nice. I kept thinking it's probably because the formulation is for a younger skin. And you can say, well, what is an older skin? What's a younger skin? Besides the laughter lines, the difference between an older skin and a younger skin is to do with hydration. And it's also to do with what happens to your skin as you get older. So you go through the menopause, you lose estrogen. Even if you have a bit of HRT, that will help, but you're still losing collagen, you're losing elastin, which is the stuff. So our skin has got 3 layers, and the top layer is the bit you see, and the bit next to that, the epidermis, the outside, the dermis, the inside. The dermis bit loses collagen and elastin. And as a result of that, it gets dry. So if you put foundation, say, made for younger skin onto an older skin, it tends to get sucked into the skin very fast and disappears.
I find it enhances my wrinkles. Some of the foundations I've been buying, and to the point where I stopped wearing foundation.
Yeah, and that's what happens to a lot of women. So, and the reason for that is why it highlights your wrinkles is because it often does have these light reflecting particles in it. And those light reflecting particles, of course, like highlight, they're like beaming out your wrinkles. So I knew I wanted a foundation that didn't do any of that stuff. It didn't disappear, although we have a product called a primer, which helped your makeup to stay put. So there was a whole sort of process by which I wanted the makeup to be formulated in a way that really suited me now I was older. And lo and behold, I had those products developed. And I do think that the business wouldn't have been so successful if the products hadn't done what I said they'd do.
Yeah.
If it's a bit like does what it says on the tin, we wouldn't have sustained the business if people had got the products and gone, well, this is no different from what I'm buying in the shops. This is no different to that Chanel Lumiere or whatever. So the stuff worked, thankfully, from day one. And people seemed to respond well to my messages, which were not anti-aging. They were pro-aging. And I kept saying things like, celebrate it. Celebrate the fact that you're older. Celebrate the fact that you have the laughter lines, the wisdom, the advantages and benefits of being older, rather than sitting there going, oh my God, I'm old.
But that's one of the things I'm trying to do with this podcast is getting people to celebrate old and reclaim old as a positive, because everything tells us that old is a negative. And even sort of like you say, the cosmetic industry, anti-aging this, anti-aging that. And I'm trying to get people. So when your products came on my radar, I was absolutely thrilled to see it wasn't an anti-aging message.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. When I first launched Look Fabulous Forever, I had actually I met somebody at a do who worked for Chanel and worked for Chanel makeup. And he said to me, this was before I launched it, I'm really sorry to have to tell you, but this isn't going to work. And I just said, well, I just thought you're an idiot. And
I'm rag to a bull.
Of course. And I'm going to show you that you're wrong. But I didn't say that. I just said, oh, why is that? As if I was interested in his reply. He said, because older women don't wear makeup. And he said, they don't buy makeup like younger women do. And he said, we aren't interested in the older female market because we hook them young and they stay with us. They stay with us because, and I said, yeah, well, they might stay with you, but they're going to get very disillusioned with your products because they don't work on an older face. And he said, but you're so wrong. He said, if this was a good idea, we would have done it. That the beauty industry would have done it. It was a good idea.
Were you fearful, though, that it wouldn't succeed? Were you fearful going into business at 65?
No, I don't think that you ever, that failure's a possibility, but I tell you what, to be really, really honest, one of the things that I did think to myself is, what is the worst that could happen? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and if that happened, would I be all right? And the answer was, of course, I'll be fine. So the worst that could happen was that I'd lose a bit of money, but the money that I was risking was not the roof over my head or the shirt on my back. I was risking quite a modest amount of money. So I could have lived with that. And the second worst that would happen would be that I'd have a bit of egg on my face and I'd be saying to my friends and family, well, I had a go, but it didn't succeed. And I thought, could I cope with that? Yeah, of course I could cope with that. I mean, for God's sake, at least I had a go.
But you were embracing aging, weren't you, by everything that you were doing? An older woman going into business, predominant need to get products for the older woman to empower them.
Yeah, I do think that the risk element of trying something like that when you're older is different because you've got a lot of life experience and you've also got a different perspective on what it means to fail. So that, had I been younger and I'd remortgaged my house up to the hilt to raise money for it or something like that, I'd really risked it in terms of the financial thing. And I'd put myself on the line and I had gone down in a, like a flame, in flames. I suppose I would have lost quite a lot a lot more in terms of my sort of sense of self-worth or self-esteem or self-confidence. So it would have knocked my confidence quite a lot. That wasn't going to happen at 65. I think I knew enough about who I was to know that it wouldn't be like a moral failure of some sort if I wasn't successful in business. I was still the same. I'd still be the same person. I'd still be a grandmother to 5 grandchildren, and I'd still be quite happy, and I'd still have a roof over my head, and I'd have had a go at something that didn't work. And the fact that it actually did work and that it's become massively successful and quite a substantial business is a bonus. It was never the point, and I do sometimes, if you take a risk in business, but you don't make it the be all and end all. If it is a success, it's like a lovely surprise, really.
How important do you think it is for younger women to have women like you starting businesses at 65, being an inspiration to them, how a role model really to them? How important do you think it is? Because all the time we're being told you're slowing down after 60, actually.
I think it's incredibly important. I get invited on quite a lot of platforms to speak, and I'm often speaking to younger people. In fact, I'm always the oldest person in the room because, it's a business context, so they don't expect people, I'm now 76, so they don't expect people of my age to actually be in a room talking about business. And I get a lot of women come up to me afterwards and say, God, this is so inspirational. I did something recently with my daughter, who's our she is our managing director. And I was doing it with her. I was on the platform with her, and she's obviously, she's just coming up to 50. And this 40-year-old came up. She said, I am so glad I came today and heard you because I'm 40 and I'm starting to think, am I too old to do this?
Oh,
the thing that I want to do. I want to start my own business. I've been working, in a more corporate environment. I now want to start my business. And she said, just sitting there and watching you, your daughter, who is 10 years older than me, you who are, 36 years older than me. And I'm thinking to myself, it's a nonsense to think that I can't start something at 40. It's an absolute nonsense. So I do think that by being a different kind of entrepreneur, an older entrepreneur, I can actually say, there are no barriers to this. The barriers, there may be barriers financially, there may be barriers in terms of what your life is at the moment that stop you from doing it. But actually, if you want to do it and you've got the ability to do it, the money to do it, and you're in a place in your life where it's possible, I'd say every time you'll regret so much more not doing it than doing it, even if it doesn't work.
How hard was it to get your voice heard, though? Because one of the things a lot of women find, and I was one of them, that as you approach 60, you feel marginalised and voiceless. And in meetings, it's really hard to get your voice heard. There's a lot of eye rolling and it's sort of, the old woman in the corner. Did you encounter any of that, in your business journey?
No. I'm not going to say I was lucky. I think the circumstances were slightly different because I wasn't in that big corporate environment. I know what you mean. You're sort of sitting in a room with a lot of other often men and you get the eye roll and stuff. So I get that. And I had been in that situation, although I'd always been such a strong feminist. I absolutely refused to accept all that crap, basically. But no, the reason I say no for this was that I had a couple of very good bits of fortune at the beginning. One was to put the videos onto YouTube that we made to go with the business. So one was showing the face makeup and one was showing the eye and the lip makeup. Put it onto YouTube. This was in the early days, relatively early days of YouTube, because it was back in 2013. And wow. And, it was incredible that they started to get viewed. Those videos started to get viewed and we started to get orders from all over the world. So I didn't have to do that sort of, apart from influencing the makeup manufacturers who did have to buy into the idea. And I also had to convince other people on the way to support the launch of the business. When the business
Really?
Yeah, I did. And I found that quite easy because people liked the idea and they liked me having a go and they were very supportive. It was like, good on you. That's a good thing to listen to, and they'd say, you're really enthusiastic. I love to hear that, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so the YouTube video sort of took it out of my hands from the point of view of promotion. So I wasn't having to promote it other than in this very interesting way via YouTube. And those videos were seen, shared, were loved by people quickly. And then the orders started coming in from all over the world. And the second bit of sort of stroke of good fortune was my daughter, Anna, joining me she came in about 6 months down the line after I'd launched. It was starting to get busy. So I was doing everything on my own. I was a one-woman band. And she just said to me, I'm really, really fed up with my job, she was working in she was working PR consultancy. And she was doing a lot of arts-based PR. So she was representing various people like Juliette Binoche. She did a sort of promotion for her for something, and Akram Khan, who was a dancer. So she's doing some interesting projects, but she was a bit fed up with the whole environment. And she said to me, this is a brilliant story. 65-year-old woman starts a business at a kitchen table and gets traction on YouTube. Gosh, that's a good story. I can PR this, she said to me. So she came in, and of course she knew what to do to PR it. She knew who to contact, how to contact them, what to sell them, the idea, blah. And we got some really, really good stuff come back from that. And one of her master strokes was she contacted Google, who own YouTube, and she managed to get the email address of the head of Google in UK and Europe, who's called Matt Britton. And she emailed him. I was his secretary, obviously, but the secretary picked it up and showed it to him. And he loved the story. And the reason he loved...
How can you not love it?
Well, yeah, but for him and from Google and YouTube business point of view, it was showing YouTube in a very good light. And at the time, so this was middle of 2014, at the time, YouTube was getting some quite heavy press, some quite nasty press.
Right.
They were getting it for not paying tax properly. And, they're a big global company. They were getting some stick. He asked me to go to Brussels and be on a platform with him, talking to politicians and business people in Brussels, and to tell them my story, because he could then stand there and say, look, this person has put her videos onto YouTube for nothing. It cost her zilch. And she's building a business on the back of it. This is how Google repays and fulfills their debt to society, if you like. We're not charging for these services. We make money on the back of them. So I did all that. I stood on the platform for him, told my story. And it was brilliant. And it was then picked up by various newspapers and things. And it was the beginning, really, for us to be able to get the message out there. So when you asked me the question, did you have problems communicating it, being noticed, being seen, being acceptable? The answer is no. And actually, interestingly, Siobhan, my age, possibly my gender, I don't know, but my age was an incredible advantage because it was the story.
Yeah, and that is the thing. Your story as somebody of 65, starting your own business, a business to empower a whole generation of women, really, is remarkable.
Yes, hopefully. And the thing is that it's interesting because I rail against ageism. I loathe it with a passion. I think it's negative on so many levels for the person who's older and also for the younger generation. But I do have to say that by doing what I did, I've almost leveraged the advantage of being older in order to get the recognition and the some of the free advertising that we've had.
But that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And it shows women that we can use our age for something positive. I mean, at a time when all our bodies are changing with the menopause and getting old, it's really hard sometimes to feel the beauty in yourself, to look in the mirror and to feel beautiful. And I like the fact that you are helping a lot of women re-find that beauty. Because like I say, I stopped wearing, certain types of makeup. And then I came across yours and I've started wearing it. And I do feel good. I do feel pretty. I do get comments now.
Well, that's really good to hear, because that is the other side of the business, that we're not selling taps. That's just a word that came into my head. But we're not selling something boring and utilitarian. We're actually selling something that makes people look and feel better. And I think when you're in that space, which is to do with self-esteem, self-confidence, feeling good, looking good, all that kind of thing, and you can speak against it. You can say, well, it's vanity, it's superficial, it's surface, it's external, all of which it is. And please believe me, I do not walk around as the makeup police. It doesn't bother me if I meet a woman who doesn't have makeup on and I'm not standing there. I was going to say very pompously, I'm not standing there judging her, but there is a bit of me that's standing there thinking you'd look so much better with a bit of lipstick on.
No, I get that. You're enabling them. Well, I do. I definitely feel that, because I think they make a choice whether they want to wear makeup or not, but not to be able to be given that choice. There was nothing available that fit the remit necessarily that they wanted to make themselves feel beautiful. So you give up. So when you look out there and see that there is something, then I think it's part of empowering women.
Yeah, I hope so. And I hope that the combination of the products that we produce and the way that we then show people how to use them. We've got endless videos, we've got 200, 300 videos with loads of full tutorials, or 5 minutes this or 2 minutes of that, or this is how this particular product needs to be applied. We do try and do a lot of sort of educating people, informing people about the best way to use them to look your absolute best. So there's that there. And then there's the whole sort of language side of it, celebrating, being positive and actually giving positive messages to each other, as well as us as a business out to our community.
As opposed to the anti-aging message that we've all been fed
Completely
from being
that.
very young, which is damaging to the younger women. I mean, if the younger women can see that we can age this way, then it's only a positive thing. One thing I do love as well is you don't test on animals, your products, do you?
No,
I
mean,
love that.
It's because we've always sourced our products from within the UK. It is a European thing. I mean, what you need to know about this is that when we were in Europe as part of the EU, there is a complete blanket ban on all animal testing on products, or cosmetics within the EU. So we obviously signed up to that, plus our factory in the UK, which we now own, which I think is an important part of the story. We actually bought the factory last June, we pulled the deal over the line. So we now own our production facility, and which is very, very important for our business because it gives us control. It also means that we're never going to lose that supply, which is terribly important. Most people don't know this, but most makeup brands are owned by 3 companies, only 3. So you see sort of 80, 200 brands out there. You name all these different brands, they usually belong to, L'Oreal's one of the biggest, and then you've got Estee Lauder. They're these massive companies. They own all these little brands. Now, a lot of them source their makeup in China. So you think you're buying some fancy French brand, and it's actually not. It's owned possibly in America, and it's probably the stuff that you're buying is actually made in China. And if it's made in China, the Chinese government insists by law that all those products are tested on animals. So they have a philosophy that things are not safe until they've been tested on a living organism like an animal. So it's a different philosophy. It's a different way of doing things. Now, we don't like that. We come from a different background and culture and tradition. We tend to think of that as cruelty and not like it at all. So it doesn't mean that our products are less safe. It just means that they're tested in a different way, which of course is also important to make sure that they are okay when used on people. But it is part of what we are proud of. I'm very glad that we acquired Creative Cosmetics, which is the factory, because it does mean that we don't have to go out to China. And the other place to go to for cosmetics is Italy. But there are complications now with buying in from Italy, and there are very big complications and challenges from buying in from China. So thank goodness we managed to pull that deal over the line. And it does mean that we know that, going forward, we're safe and that we've got the right people making our stuff.
I'm just going to interrupt for a moment to shamelessly plug my book, Retirement Rebel. It's published by Vertebrate Publishers, and it's my honest account of feeling broken in my 50s and finding my happy place in my mid-60s. I got rid of my home and possessions and hit the road in my motorhome for a roller coaster ride along life's adventures. I wanted to help younger women not to fear aging and older women to grab life and run with it. You can purchase a copy in most bookstores and on Amazon. Right, now back to the conversation. What impact has it had on you as a woman, late 70s now, running a business and aging? Do you think it's kept you more vibrant?
Oh, hugely so. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of ways in which it's incredibly important in my life. The first thing I would say is that it's been the best 10 years of my life since I started it. I've enjoyed the last 10 years probably more than any other period before that, when, let's face it, I was either getting married, having children, building up a different kind of career, getting divorced. I got divorced when I was 42, so I've been divorced for a long time. So I was having to financially look after myself. I probably knew in my heart of hearts that I wouldn't get married again and also would need to therefore look after myself. So I was doing all of that stuff. And, there are certain complications and issues around that. And then when I started Look Fabulous Forever, I was free of a lot of those concerns. And, my children were grown. I had grandchildren instead. I got a roof over my head, which I owned, and things were okay. And I just felt a kind of liberation from that. So the last 10 years have been terrific. Now, what I have done, and it's an incredibly important thing to do, we've just been watching the presidential election debacle in the USA. And it's this whole thing about when you do get older, and okay, I'm 76, so I'm still, 6 or 7 years younger than Joe Biden. But you have to start thinking about, hang on a minute, what am I doing in this business that's helping it? What am I doing that might be hindering it? Is there anything about me slowing down, becoming less energetic or whatever that might be a disadvantage to this business? And I think that, unlike Joe Biden, I've been very, very conscious of the point at which I needed to step back a bit, hand over some of the reins to other people. Now, the other people, fortunately, in my case, were my daughters. So both daughters worked in the business. Susie, who's India's mum, came in 2015 and took over. She was at Barclays as a senior manager. She took over all our money, stock, and all that sort of spreadsheet stuff, the stuff that Hannah and I hate, basically.
It gives me a headache. Just say the word spreadsheet and I think, no.
Exactly. So she was good at that. So she's still a very, very big and important part of our business, now has an overall responsibility for both businesses, so both Creative Cosmetics, the factory, and also the online makeup business. And then Anna, who came in after 6 months to join me, knows there's nothing she doesn't know about the business. So about probably 4 or 5 years ago, I started to sort of certainly release the control of the day-to-day, being down in the weeds of the business, checking up on the sales figures every 3 hours or whatever. I gave that all up and gave that over to them. It's like, okay, this is your responsibility now. And you'll have the title and the salary commensurate with doing that. And I stepped back. So what I do now is utterly cherry pick the things I love.
But you're having a great time. You're going on all sorts of holidays and learning new things.
Yeah, I am. I've got the best of all possible worlds. So I write a blog every week, which is, I usually aim for about 1,500 words. That blog covers every subject under the sun. I try and make it as diverse and interesting as I can. The focus is what it feels like to be an older woman in the world today.
Oh, amazing.
I don't always do light and fluffy subjects. Sometimes I do quite serious subjects. Sometimes I do sort of keyboard warrior stuff. I got very exercised about what was happening with the water quality in this country and did a lot
Good.
So I read up as much as I could, did some research, and then wrote an article about it. What I'm trying to do is trying to reflect back to people, these are the things that are on my mind. These are the things that are bothering me right now. And then occasionally I'll do something. So this week I've written a blog about colour, because colourful clothes, colourful makeup, because I've been down to Somerset to Chard last week, and I've been to some
lovely
colour studio with Kettlewell Colours, which is a brand that specialises in making clothes in vibrant, gorgeous colours to suit the colouring that you have.
Well, one thing I say is when you age, you don't beige, because the clothes available for older women, it's getting better, but there are an awful lot of dowdy clothes still out there aimed at the older woman. And I want more vibrancy, more colours. So that sounds good.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And I had a lovely time. I went on Thursday evening and stayed over. And then I was there Friday, did a live event. And this is the kind of thing I do now. I did a live event on Facebook with the colour expert at Kettlewell. And then on Saturday, they invited 25 of their customers to come to a makeover demo. So one of our makeup artists came up, and my daughter came as well. And so we were there to advise and give help and support to people who are interested in makeup. And it was brilliant. So there were 25 amazingly colourfully dressed women. You would have really approved, because
love it.
Was amazing. So I've written a blog about that. So I try and in my blog to reflect stuff that's going on in my life and things that I'm doing. And it has freed me to do those things of the business. Like I'm the face of the business still. I'm still very strongly the voice of the business. So if they need a quote about something, they'll come to me. And then outside of work, I'm exploring opportunities to stay curious in the sense of I like to learn something new quite regularly. So this year I've been to Italy and done a week's course in learning Italian, which I can speak French, so Italian wasn't too difficult.
Fab.
I've started to learn bridge, which is a game very much for older people, but there's a local bridge club in Parsons Green. It's Andrew Robson, who's a leading light in the world of bridge. And I go there every Wednesday afternoon. I play bridge. Well, I try and play bridge. It's very difficult, but it's very good for my brain.
I love the staying curious bit. I like that. I think to just, that's something that I'm going to take forward from this interview is thinking, just stay curious about things.
Yeah. And that, I mean, when I wrote about the water companies, I knew that they were pulling all the profit and they were borrowing money against them, the businesses, in a way that was not, particularly reputable. And I also knew that there were high levels of sewage and pollution. I didn't know why, and I didn't really know what was going on. And what I found out was shocking in the extreme.
Yeah.
And that's a curiosity for me. It's like I know a little bit about this subject. What could I find out that would be, would really develop my knowledge? And then I put that into a blog so that I could share it. And then I got about 50 comments going, I can't believe this. It's scandalous. It is scandalous.
But at least you're getting the conversation going. And that's what I like as well.
Yeah.
And somebody who goes wild swimming all over the place, I'm very interested to find out. I was shocked when I saw how many of our rivers were polluted. And even down here, I'm house sitting for a couple of weeks and I go swimming in the sea down here and there are warnings if sewage is being released. And you just think it's outrageous, isn't it?
It's disgusting. I mean, it's disgusting. And it's an ecological disaster because it's killing the little creatures and wildlife and everything is being affected by it. It's horrible, horrible, horrible. And it should not be happening. And we've got a new government. So it's interesting. The guy, Steve Reed, is in charge of the whole thing. And he's saying some very interesting things. And as a constituent, we need to keep these people on their toes, let them know.
Definitely.
If there are four or five things they need to do, and he's making all the right noises at the moment. So it will be interesting to see if he does as good a job. But it's that kind of thing that I think is incredibly important, because if you stay open and curious and you look at something in the world that you don't understand, and you go, well, I don't understand this, but I could find out about it.
Yeah.
It keeps I think it's very important to keep your brain kind of buzzing. I like to feel that my brain is buzzing, and it's buzzing perhaps with some new information or something, some new insight, or it's really being stretched like bridge does for me, stretched with having to learn something. And it's like I took my grandson with me on Wednesday to bridge to be my partner. So he's 15. He's very bright. And I just thought I could take this 15-year-old brain with me.
Yeah, every little helps. So what's your next trip that you're going to be doing?
The next trip I'm going away. I'm driving on my own all the way to the south of France. I'm going to go over a couple of days.
Again, that's inspirational for women, because a lot of women say, I can't do that now. I'm too old, or I'd be too afraid to do that. It's such a long way to drive on my own. And again, I'm trying to show examples of people like you and me that are just getting in the car and heading off.
Yeah, because I love driving. I've got a hybrid Mini, so it's part petrol, part electric. Electric for a brilliant round where I live, which is in Wimbledon. So I'm driving down. I'm going through the tunnel, and I'm driving down. I'm taking a couple of days. I'm staying in beautiful places on the way down, and then I'm going to just outside Carcassonne into a gîte. And
lovely.
It was an interview I did with somebody called Honor Marks, and she is a very, very interesting person. You know her too. She's a friend of yours.
I do. She is amazing. She brings women together, and the way that she supports women and has tribes of women gives them the courage to do solo holidays. And she doesn't call them retreats. She calls them me treats. That's it. I'm so looking forward to see how you get on that trip.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing her. So I came off this call with her and I just looked at her website and I just thought, I'd like to go down there, not for one of these meat treats, but just to be in her gîte. And then in September, I'm going to Italy. I'm going to Bologna and I'm doing another watercolor painting course. Now, I had never picked up a paintbrush until about 2 or 3 years ago when I just decided to go on a watercolor painting holiday. And I'd never painted before, honestly. At school, hopeless. Couldn't draw, couldn't do anything. And then I just thought, you know what? You can make a mark on a piece of paper with a brush and some paint, surely. So I went and I loved it. I loved it. So
I love it.
This is my 5th painting holiday, I think, and they're always in Italy. This is, for me, the essence of what's making me feel like I have a happy and fulfilled life now, because I've got the business side of things, but I'm also outside of work. I am able to do these things, and I think I have to keep doing them for as long as I possibly can. I really do.
You're such an inspiration. Now, as a retirement rebel, I have to ask my guests, when was the last time that you did something rebellious or felt rebellious?
I'm not a tremendously rebellious person in the sense of standing out in the crowd, but I'm going to say something really quite weird here. But in a way, I think that when a woman of my age puts on a really bright, vibrant, reddish lipstick, that's quite a big act of rebellion, because you aren't supposed, in theory, to wear a really punchy red, really socket to you lipstick when you're my age. And I do it very defiantly. Whenever I pick up, we've got a lipstick called Monroe Red, which is a very, very good, strong, gorgeous blue-red lipstick, which really suits me.
Oh, I'll have to try it.
And if it's my birthday's on Christmas Day, and I get taken out to a very smart restaurant on the Saturday before Christmas by my daughter and 2 daughters and their husbands, and I dress up quite a lot for that because it's my birthday celebration and it's a smart restaurant. So I often wear something quite glam, and I always wear a really bright red lipstick with it. And it's like, it doesn't say, it's not like a major act of rebellion. I'm not throwing a brick into a window or anything, but for me,
oh no, I love it.
It's saying, I am not going to accept society's estimation of what I should look like as an older woman, which is a bit toned down and a bit sort of muted and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Don't ever stop being you. You've been an absolute joy to talk to. Now, if anybody wants to take a look at some of your products and to follow you on social media and to read your blogs, where can they find you?
So lookfabulousforever.com. And that's where you'll find everything about the makeup. It's a very rich website. It's a very big website. We've got a lot of inspirational stuff on there, photographs of customers who are showing our products, as well as more formal stuff. We've got lots of videos on there. My blogs are on there. You'll find my blogs. If you look right at the top bar, it says Discover. Click on that. It scrolls down and it says Tricia's blog. All my blogs are there. I write a blog every week and there's a lot of them there. So that's blogs and website. And then we're on Facebook. We've also got if you're interested in joining us, we've got a closed Facebook group called Tricia's Super Troopers, which we started in lockdown. The idea of that is that we were sort of, fighting against the odds. We were in COVID. It was very uncomfortable. We were all locked up. And it's like, let's be strong and brave together. So it's called Tricia's Super Troopers. And they're an amazing group of women. There are 9,000 on there now. We're all over the world. And I love it because there are certain subjects we stay off, fine, but we are sharing birthdays, anniversaries, celebrations, lots and lots of info. If you've got a health problem and you're saying, I'm quite scared about this, I've got to go in for something. Some woman's just gone in for something called a cardiac ablation.
Oh,
so
yeah.
she's had to have something done to her heart. And she wrote about it. And everybody piles in and says, we're with you, we'll support you, I hope it goes well. Or somebody will say, I had that done, it was a great success. We're a kind group. And I insist on it staying supportive, generous, kind, complimentary, and just generally nice.
Kindness is our biggest strength. And I think women supporting women and kindness, I think that's something they should be teaching at primary school all the way through, ahead of everything else. If we're kind in life, it's just going to make things so much better. We can support one another. So I love the sound of that.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. And I'm the moderator of the group in the sense that I keep a beady eye on it. And it does occasionally go pear-shaped because people are people. And occasionally,
that's human nature.
Yeah, you'll get the odd little rotten apple in the barrel. But I neutralize it completely. And sometimes people say, oh, I don't always want to be talking about lipstick. I want to be talking about serious subjects. But if that serious subject happens to be how much you hate Meghan Markle, or sorry, this isn't the place for that.
No.
You hate Meghan Markle, go on to some other website, because this isn't a place for you to vent any of that stuff.
No.
It's not what we do. So I keep a beady eye on it. And that means that since lockdown, so we started in 2020, so it's been going 4 years. We've got an amazing group. And I love going on to it. And occasionally I'll put out a question like, I need something. I wanted to buy, this is going to sound really, really random. I wanted to buy a hands-free vacuum cleaner type thing, not plug in.
So everybody tells you what they would think are the best ones. Brilliant.
The best tip I've had was I want to change my energy company, and they all said Octopus. I changed to Octopus. It is amazing. I will tell you that Octopus is the best energy company in the world. So there you go. And it's like a bit of consumer advice, a bit of health advice. We celebrate anniversaries, birthdays. We celebrate grandchildren if they're born. But we also accept some people don't have grandchildren. We also show our latest outfits or our makeup or our wedding pictures.
Oh, it sounds fun. It's like a girls' meetup.
Fun.
Well, I hope you have the best time ever on your trip down to France. I did 2 weeks doing that same route with Honor in my motorhome. She joined me and we went down and did a girls' road trip. I had a ball. You're going to have a blast. So thank you so much for talking to me as well on the podcast. I've really enjoyed it.
Pleasure. And good luck to you, Siobhan, as well, in everything that you do, which is also very inspirational. Good to hear about.
Thank you. I had a wonderful time chatting with Tricia Cusden about her life and how she didn't let age deter her when she wanted to start a new makeup business, look fabulous forever, at the age of 65. I learned from her that age is not a barrier to achieving new things. You can repivot your life when you retire and do what you really want to do. You can fulfill your dreams. You can continue to challenge yourself and learn new things well into your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even your hundreds. I realised too that it's very important to stay curious about life, to keep yourself mentally and physically alert. Tricia loves to travel solo, and that's something that I too can relate to because I travel around in my motorhome on my own. And I encourage other women to look at travelling solo because it can be fun and liberating. Next week, I'll be speaking to Liz Kay, who lives in Cornwall and is a shining example of how many women in their 60s are embracing more physical challenges, swimming, cycling, running, in her case, surf lifesaving. I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Retirement Rebel Life After 60. I'm truly grateful for your time and your willingness to embark on this journey with me. If today's conversation sparked something within you, or if you've your own rebel story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out through our social media channels or email, and let's keep the conversation going. Email us on podcast@retirementrebel.co.uk. And remember, if you found value in our time together today, consider sharing this episode with a friend who might also enjoy and benefit from our Retirement Rebel community. Spreading the word helps us grow and continue to challenge the narrative around life after 60. All of our details can be found on retirementrebel.co.uk. Retirement Rebel Life After 60 is written and hosted by me, Siobhan Daniels, and produced by the incredibly talented Matt Cheney. Join me again next week for another episode. Until then, keep embracing your inner rebel and living life to the fullest. Bye for now.